It is one of the richest cities on earth, not a country, not a capital. Just a city, drive through it and you might miss the story completely. Quiet neighborhoods, office parks, coffee shops filled with people staring at laptops. Nothing about it looks like the center of a global money machine, and yet trillions of dollars have been created here. The place is San Jose, California, in the heart of Silicon Valley, and the strange part is this: 30 years ago, almost nobody outside the tech industry paid much attention to it. Today it quietly produces more billion-dollar companies than most countries. So how did one relatively ordinary California city become one of the richest economic zones in human history? The answer is not what most people think. It wasn't just smart engineers, it wasn't just venture capital, and it definitely wasn't luck. It was a system, a strange, self-reinforcing machine that turns ideas into money faster than almost anywhere else on the planet. But like most powerful systems, it started with something surprisingly simple: orchards before the chips, before the startups. Before the billion-dollar valuations, the Santa Clara Valley looked completely different. In the early 1900s, this region was known for fruit: apricots, plums, cherries. Miles of farmland stretched across what is now covered by office buildings and glass tech campuses. The area was nicknamed the Valley of Heart's Delight. Not exactly the name of a future tech empire, but two quiet things were already happening. First, Stanford University. When railroad tycoon Leland Stanford founded the university in the late 1800s, he had an unusual idea. The school wouldn't just produce scholars, it would produce builders, engineers, inventors, people who didn't just write theories about technology but actually created it. The second piece appeared decades later: World War II. The war forced the United States government to pour enormous amounts of money into research, radar, electronics, communications systems. Universities became laboratories for military innovation. Stanford was one of them. After the war ended, something unusual happened. Instead of shutting those research programs down, the money kept flowing, and a professor named Frederick Terman made a bold decision. He encouraged his students not to leave, not to go east, not to join big corporations. Stay here, he said. Start companies. So they did. Two Stanford graduates named Bill Hewlett and Dave Packard started building electronic equipment in a small garage nearby. It worked. That garage company slowly grew into Hewlett Packard, which quietly proved something powerful: you could build serious technology companies right here in the valley. That moment changed everything, because once the first company succeeds, the system begins. Engineers leave and start their own companies. Investors see opportunity and move in, talent arrives, knowledge spreads, and suddenly a local economy becomes a feedback loop. By the 1970s, the valley had shifted from fruit orchards to semiconductors, tiny chips that power computers. Companies like Intel were designing the brains of the digital age, and San Jose's at right in the center of it. But the real explosion hadn't happened yet. That came with personal computers. During the late 1970s and 1982, something radical happened. Computing power moved from giant government machines into ordinary homes and offices. The companies building those machines needed engineers, thousands of them. And where were the engineers trained? Right here: Stanford, Berkeley, Caltech, a pipeline of talent feeding directly into the valley. But talent alone does not create billion-dollar companies. You need money that is willing to take risks. And this is where Silicon Valley built its most powerful engine. Venture capital. In most of the world, investors prefer safe bets, established businesses, predictable returns, but venture capital operates differently. It expects most investments to fail. 9 out of 10 startups will collapse, but the 10th one might become worth tens of billions of dollars. If that happens, every failure is forgiven. Silicon Valley perfected this math by the 1990s. Billions of dollars were flowing into risky new technology companies across the region. And San Jose sat directly inside that network. Then came the internet. Suddenly software could scale across the entire world. A company created in a small office in Silicon Valley could reach millions of users overnight. That changed the economics completely. In traditional industries, growth is slow: factories, supply chains, logistics. But software is different. Once it works, copying it costs almost nothing. One engineer can write code used by hundreds of millions of people. The result? Massive profits. The dot-com boom of the late 1990s flooded the region with even more money and talent. Many of those early companies collapsed during the crash of 2000, but something interesting happened. The talent stayed, engineers didn't disappear, investors didn't leave, the infrastructure remained. So when the next wave arrived, social media, smartphones, cloud computing, the valley was ready, and the wealth creation accelerated. Again, now here's the uncomfortable math. A single successful technology company can generate enormous wealth in a very small geographic area. Think about what happens when a startup succeeds. Early employees receive stock. Engineers become millionaires. Founders become billionaires. Investors receive massive returns. And most of that money stays nearby. It buys houses, funds new startups, creates investment firms, builds more companies. The money circulates locally, which is exactly what happened in and around San Jose. Company founders reinvested their wealth into new ventures. Employees left successful firms and launched their own startups. Investors backed them, and the cycle repeated over and over. Each generation of companies creating the next. This is why the Valley produces so many tech giants. Not because the ideas are better, but because the system is faster. Failure is tolerated, experience compounds, capital is always nearby, and talented people keep arriving. The result is a city where extraordinary wealth can appear. Almost overnight, but there's a catch, actually several, because when wealth concentrates this quickly in one place, strange side effects appear. Housing prices explode. San Jose now has some of the most expensive real estate in the United States. A modest home can cost well over $1 million. Engineers earning six-figure salaries compete for limited housing. Service workers commute hours just to afford living nearby. The prosperity creates pressure and inequality. Another irony is how fragile the system actually is. For all the wealth created here, the valley depends on a constant flow of innovation. If the pipeline of new startups slows down, the entire machine weakens. That's why investors obsess over the next big thing. Artificial intelligence, quantum computing, biotech, whatever the next wave becomes, the valley needs it. Because the system only works if new companies keep replacing the old ones. There's also a deeper risk. Technology industries tend to cluster. Talent attracts talent, capital attracts capital. But clusters can shift. Detroit once dominated the global auto industry. Hollywood once controlled nearly all film production. Economic power can migrate, which raises an uncomfortable question. Is Silicon Valley permanent? Or just another phase in the geography of innovation? For now, San Jose remains one of the most powerful economic hubs in the world. The concentration of engineers, venture capital, research institutions, and tech companies is still unmatched. But the formula that made the valley rich is no longer secret. Cities around the world are trying to replicate it. Governments are investing billions into technology ecosystems. Universities are building startup incubators. Investors are spreading out, and remote work is slowly weakening geography itself, which means the very forces that made San Jose wealthy could eventually make location less important. That would be the ultimate irony. A region that built the internet, watching the internet dissolve the need for regions. But we're not there yet. For now, the system still runs. Ideas move from dorm rooms to startups. Startups move to venture funding. Some collapse, a few explode into global companies, and the wealth flows back into the valley once again, quietly, relentlessly. From the outside, San Jose still looks like a normal California city, but beneath the surface sits one of the most efficient wealth creation machines humans have ever built. A machine powered by risk, talent, capital, and a culture strangely comfortable with failure. The real question is not how this city became so rich. That part is clear. The deeper question is something economists, investors, and governments are still trying to answer. If one city can build a system like this, why haven't more of them done it? And if they eventually do, what happens to the place that invented it?